corners, easy on the throttle, accelerate all the way down the backstretch. Whereas Gray, trying to catch him, I think, and that's how it happens. We see it. Everybody does it. You're trying to catch that guy in front of you, and he's just as fast. Look at the lap times. The lap times were fairly comparable, but when you're driving the car that hard and you're buzzing the tires less than what the leader is, the leader's going to get away, and that's what happened. It grew lap after lap. I think Bryson won that by, I want to say it was 5 seconds, close to 5 seconds. I mean, he was out quite a ways.
He'd run the bottom super, super low. Gray tried running it as low as he did, but the car didn't like it.
Gray tried running everywhere.
Yeah.
Which is when you're trying to catch a leader, you're hunting the racetrack, and Gray's getting really good at that. He's getting really good at hunting that track to find out where his car is working best. And unfortunately, that night, Bryson and Charlie and those guys, that crew hit the setup perfect.
Oh yeah.
And like you said, I don't care if Bryson is in his modified or if he is in his Swartz late model. When it comes to a dry, slick track, being on the bottom and being smooth, there's only one driver I can say is probably smoother than him, and that's Jeremy Shank. You know what I mean? On the bottom. I'm talking about on the bottom. He has got that figured out better than everybody.
Well, Brett's pretty smooth, too.
Brett is. Colin's good on the bottom. Colin's good on the top. But I think just being smooth across that bottom and using it to your advantage. Let me use it. Let's say it like that. Using that bottom line to your advantage. I think Bryson's probably the best at that right now. Part of the game. He's good.
Yeah. He's what, 16th in national points?
13th in national points.
I thought he said 16th.
Looking at the points, and you might be right, but looking at the national points, I thought I saw that he was 13th.
13 and 13.
Yeah, go figure.
Yeah. There was only 13 spots to vote in that All-Star.
Wasn't that weird?
Yeah.
Did you vote every day?
I voted every day.
Okay.
I was campaigning for that like you wouldn't believe.
I know you were. I saw a few posts you made. Hey, let's vote our West Coast guys in. We were sharing it on Moxie, trying to get those guys in. I'm sure they'll make it. I'm sure those West Coast guys will make it. I'm going to be honest. When it came to voting that deal, okay, who were the first three drivers we all voted for? Campos.
Well, you're an Oregon boy. Patterson probably wouldn't have voted the same way we did.
I bet he did. I bet Mike did. He's a West Coast guy.
I know, but he was probably going to vote Ethan, Ryan, and Cody first.
Okay, so we all know between all of us at Moxie, those were the first 6 guys we voted. Bryson James, Colin Weinbarger, John Campos, Dotson, Laney, and McDaniels. Okay. How did you, on the All-Star vote, how did you complete the next 7 drivers?
Anybody that wasn't in Iowa.
Are you serious?
That's how I did it.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
You want to know something? It's exactly what I did because all those guys in Iowa were right there.
Yeah.
They're all going.
Yeah. Yeah, anybody but anybody in Iowa. That's how I did it.
Well, because you got down to when there was only 13, you had to vote one driver from Iowa. Who was the one driver from Iowa that you were voting for?
I changed it up so that.
Did you?
Yeah. So I was trying to change. I was like, if I keep voting for the same guy, I feel like I'm going to stack the deck with him. In my mind.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
So I was like, I'm going to change it up to a different guy, and you'll be fine.
Okay. I get that concept, and I'm sure a lot of people did. I didn't. I voted for the same guys all the time.
Nearly.
But the one guy from Iowa that I voted for, just because I watched a highlight film, or it was a feature a couple of weeks ago on Facebook where he was in a heated battle for the lead and made a last lap move. I mean, I'm talking bold move for the win. I did vote for Tim Ward. That's the only guy from Iowa that I voted for.
Well, that's fair enough.
But the rest of it's funny you say that because I did too. I did the same thing. Those guys are all right there. They're going to go. You know, and those guys are all. A lot of those guys are.
Well, and they're going to race at that track all the time,
and they're going to be in that show.
Yeah.
Whether they're voted in or not, they're going to be there. You know what I mean? Jake Wansley says, "I did anyone but Iowa too." So it kind of seems like that's what everybody was going for because they know that's just what it is. I thought it was interesting how they did the voting this year. You know, just going round to round to round, eliminating people, but to have it was just such an odd number. To have 13 in the final round.
Well, and Kyle Strickler was in there. I didn't understand that. I figure he would have made it in the first.
See, and that's why I didn't vote for guys like Strickler and Shryock and all of the the big names you expect that you know you're going to see there anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Why vote for those guys?
Mm-hmm.
That just takes votes away from other drivers that have a chance.
Yeah.
Okay? I was voting for Bobby Hogue, and I was voting for Robbie Sawyer, and to see those guys not make it to the second round blew my mind.
Mm-hmm.
Blew my mind to see that those West Coast guys didn't get out of the first round of voting. I don't understand that. I mean, when you look at the state of California,
you're probably going with the same theory as people that you went with. Why should I vote for them? They're big name. They're already going to go there.
And you're probably right. There might be people thinking like that. Okay, but then you're going to think the same way about Laney and Dotson too.
Yeah.
I mean, who was it? Was it Laney last year? It was Laney last year. I'm positive. At Boone, Super Nationals, finished 15th.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so if your theory there about Hogue and Sawyer, wouldn't they apply that to the same, the other two top drivers in California? I mean, it's weird to see how people do this deal.
Mm-hmm.
I was just surprised that Sawyer and Hogue didn't get out of the first round.
Oh yeah.
Were you surprised by that when you saw the second ballot come out?
Oh yeah.
All the Oregon guys were there, with the exception of one or two.
Yeah, Gray and
which again,
Jesse. Was it Gray?
Jesse?
Yeah, yep. Jesse.
I was surprised those guys didn't make it from Oregon, with everybody voting for West Coast guys. I was surprised that they didn't get out of there, because those are two good drivers, fast, great equipment.
Mm-hmm.
It was strange to watch that whole deal and how fans vote, and I would like to see final numbers. If there's a way we could see final numbers, that would be interesting to see who, per round. Mm-hmm. First round, X amount of votes. This is who got it. I'd like to see that all the way through. I wonder if they'd ever release that.
Probably not.
It would be cool to see, though.
It would be cool to see.
I wish they would do that at the completion of each round. Maybe a suggestion for those guys next year. At the completion of each round, say, okay, this is what it is.
But
I don't think that would taint. Well, okay. I mean, okay, no.
As a driver,
let me restate.
As a driver getting voted in, though, that would kill me if I knew I was only 5 votes out.
Well, here's the thing. Let me restate that. I didn't mean to say after each round. I mean after the final round. Mm-hmm. Once all the voting is done, this is how it went per round. Whether you miss it by 5 votes, 500 or 1, doesn't matter. This is the way people voted. Mm-hmm. Okay. I think it'd be interesting to see those numbers. Just the way everything played out was, and I think it would benefit that whole voting process with Fast Shaft and that whole all-star deal, because when people can see the results, it makes that whole deal a little more legitimate. Like, okay, we're voting, but we're not seeing the results. We're not seeing who got what. I think if you do that, I mean, could you imagine if we voted for president and nobody saw numbers at the end?
Oh, yeah.
It's kind of the same thing. You want to see the results. You want to see how it all went down and who got the votes.
Well, see, and I stacked the deck last night at game time. I ran around and talked to everybody at the bar at midnight.
Oh, right at midnight. Yeah, you were down there. And
after work, and I literally walked around and go, hey, you got Facebook? Okay, go to this.
Really?
Yeah.
Good for you. Good deal.
So
we got some more votes for the guys.
Yeah. And what is this? What am I voting for? And I go, oh, it's a race car thing. You'll understand one day when you're cool.
I love it.
Don't worry about it. I got you.
I love it. So what I did was I went and tagged a whole bunch of people that kind of know about racing but don't come to the racetrack a whole bunch, and they all went and voted for those guys too.
Nice.
So which was cool. Some guys that used to race that don't make it out the track very often, people that know about racing but don't come out, people that I wanted to get some votes in there to get those West Coast guys out there. So we all did our part. Voting ended at 2:00 today.
Yeah.
I want to see the final.
I want to know who got phone calls.
Yeah.
They theoretically should have all been called by now.
Well, I don't know. It's a lot of votes when you're talking about a national deal. And I think they were even voting for some of that up in Canada. There was a Canadian driver, too.
Yeah.
I think there was a driver from Saskatchewan that was in the hunt. Yeah. So we'll see. It'll be interesting, but let's hope our Westies got there, man.
Oh. According to one of Campos's posts, there was a rumor that 3 were pretty close to going. And I have a feeling I know which 3.
As far as vote-wise or just going?
Vote-wise going.
Okay. Well, that's tough because when you've got Bryson James, Colin Weinbarger, John Campos, Dotson, and Laney, and Ryan McDaniel, that's 6 really, really BA modifieds.
Well, yeah.
And if you're only talking about 3, it could be any of those dudes.
Well, I think his post was referring to Oregon.
Okay, well, then we know what 3 are going. There's only 3 left.
Mm-hmm.
That'd be awesome.
Okay
I
with
hope
that.
they did. I hope they all get voted in. I want to see those West Coast guys out there. I want to see that representation, because last year what Laney did really solidified. Hey, listen, this West Coast deal. These guys on the West Coast, they got a good program out there. They're just as good as anybody else in the country.
And those 3 guys work pretty good together, so
Yeah.
it should be a good showing out there with sharing a little bit of data.
Well,
I
and
know
I think
their cars are all different, but I know that they'll share data.
Sure, work on each other's cars, help each other out if they need it. And I think Dotson and Laney, those guys would all be kind of, it'd kind of be a group effort. I would hope so anyway.
Oh,
Ethan,
I know for sure Ethan gets a lot along. During the speed weeks, they were joshing around.
Oh,
with
yeah.
the guys playing.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Oh, that's that whole Dotson and Laney, those guys are pretty tight down there in California, and we saw that at the Bud Nationals. Good group of people. But I'll tell you, when the racing's done and it's time to turn loose, you better bring your A game to hang with those dudes.
Oh, yeah.
They'll
put it out there.
They come strong like they do behind the wheel. They let it go at the end of the night, and it's game on. It's not your average pit area party, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
These guys do it, and it's fun. I'll tell you that right now.
And they do it smiling. So
yeah, good time. I was really watching that Fast Shafts All-Star deal. That's gonna be fun to see the final results. I don't know when they're coming out. Have you heard? Is it midnight tonight?
I'm not sure.
I don't know if they're going to release them today.
When Ricky Thornton Jr. got voted in, it was like voting ended, and at like 5 o'clock, he had gotten a phone call, and he posted on Facebook or something that he was voted in. So I thought it would be a little quicker. I don't know. I could be wrong. I have nothing to do with IMCA whatsoever.
We don't. We can just talk about what goes on. And the IMCA deal, I will tell you, I've been spending a lot of time reading the rules. And reading the rules, even here at Jetstream, a lot of racers stop in here.
Mm-hmm.
You know that. You're here, you stop in, when you get a chance. And typically when you stop in, it's crazy. There's somebody in the race world here talking race cars, talking whatever.
Or telling you a lie.
Possibly. That's why we you know how it is. So, been spending a lot of time reading the IMCA rule book.
Good. Can I borrow that for the transmission part? Because
Okay.
I need to figure some stuff out.
If you look, this is the concept. Okay, the concept, and we've kind of talked about this amongst ourselves here with the Moxie crew off the air at the racetrack. The concept of IMCA is a great concept. The problem with IMCA, and this is what I see. This is the only thing I see as a negative. Okay, and I want your opinion on this when
you're done telling your part.
Yeah. So the concept, we're going to create a class now. The IMCA Modified was created as a blue-collar, everyday division for guys like yourself, myself, working guys that didn't have a lot of money,
But
weren't poor, but didn't want to go spend $70,000 on a late model to get into a good quality real race car. And by that I mean a manufactured chassis, all that good stuff. Okay. Number one, IMCA has kind of gotten away from that whole concept of the average man's class. Okay. When you look at what these cars are costing now, and I'm talking rollers from the manufacturer, I'm talking about complete race cars.
You're talking about modifieds, though.
I'm not talking about sport mods. I'm talking about the IMCA, A mod, whatever you want to call it.
Stock car.
Right. I'm talking about just the modifieds. Okay. These cars are getting expensive. Okay. That kind of bothers me. Because it's starting to. The only thing that's doing is really creating a strong sport mod division. Okay, you're going to separate those guys that, the average guy that can't go run with the top dogs. What's he going to do? He's going to get a sport mod and go be competitive in that division. Okay, that's one thing that is a positive. The negative is it's getting away from what the whole concept started to be. The other problem I have, and this is going back to the rule book where I started this deal, reading the rule book. There are parts of that rule book that are so specific, it's clear you understand what you're reading. There are other parts, the way the verbiage is worded, it's so broad and so general, I can see how a lot of guys can make a mistake putting the wrong part on the car.
Mm-hmm.
There's certain spots where it's like, okay, this part number,